And the story is so compelling. I wish I could show people.
Well, show them. You can show your nails because Lori.
I chewed and bit and ripped them off.
Well, you got to put them close to the camera, Lori. There you go. She's showing us her fingers. She doesn't have any nails left. I paused, Rocco, during the first episode like 3 different times and thought, do I really want to watch?
Oh, really? It's that stressful?
Well, just because you know something bad's going to happen, but you love the clothes, you love the party scene.
Yeah.
It's so fun to go back to the 70s style because that was really kind of one of our sweet spots.
Yeah. Naturally. And our story today, we have a couple of them. And it was kind of, there's still nothing really going on that we can really do. So we are still watching a lot of things at home because we're not going to bars or music or anything. Stuff still isn't happening. So,
and it was pouring rain and we had a massive thunderstorm last night too.
Right. And, our mutual friend, Sandy, had sent me a text on Sunday night. You must watch The Serpent, which just dropped on Netflix on Friday. And it had been coming up in Casey and I's queue based on all of our international thriller,
drug,
mystery, all these things as a number one pick for us. So we watched it last night. Let me just do
so Lori's going to do the show and tell. It's so 70s, Rocco. I actually watched the first episode last night myself.
Okay.
And it is about this guy. It's a true story based on this guy, Charles Sobra. And we don't know him by that name in the show, but it starts off with the real guy doing an interview at some point. And he is still alive, but I have not gone down the Google trail.
No.
But it is a true story, and he was known as the Serpent because he's a gem dealer, he's an escape artist, he's a serial killer, and it basically this show he got the nickname the Serpent because at some point there is a worldwide manhunt
for him
to get him.
But it starts out with him being interviewed, Rocco, in like 2006 or something, that he's finally out of jail and everything or something, and he can never, ever, ever be tried anywhere in the world for any of the things he's done.
Which none of that is true. But
that's how he starts out.
That's how it starts off, and it's in Bangkok and Hong Kong, and the time period is like the 70s when people were going on the so-called the hippie trail. We talked to the woman last week about Sparks Like Stars, about it's kind of in the 70s when people it was like a guide to do off-beaten cheap travel in all of Southeast Asia.
Yes.
Right.
Turkey, Syria, Jordan,
Thailand.
Kabul, Tehran.
So we're traveling.
Bombay.
We're in Bangkok. And I mean, the second episode, you get an incredible tour of Bangkok. But we also see Hong Kong. They also put in old footage of like 70s and stuff to give the flavor of what it looked like, and the cars and everything else. And the costumes were amazing. And the story is so compelling. I wish I could show people.
Well, show them. You can show your nails because Lori.
I chewed and bit and ripped them off.
Well, you got to put them close to the camera, Lori. There you go. She's showing us her fingers. She doesn't have any nails left. I paused, Rocco, during the first episode like 3 different times and thought, do I really want to watch?
Oh, really? It's that stressful?
Well, just because you know something bad's going to happen, but you love the clothes, you love the party scene. It's so fun to go back to the 70s style because that was really kind of one of our sweet spots.
I've never heard of the hippie trail. Is that a thing you've heard of before?
We just learned about it really last week in this book that from the author Nadia.
I can't think of her last name, but she said there was a real guidebook, The Hippie Trail, and it was a thing that really popular in the 60s and 70s when all these countries where you could go to Iran, you could go to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and you could stay very cheaply and
it was off the beaten path travel.
Interesting.
And, anyway, it is so good. The guy who plays the bad guy,
we can't see him. Put it up a little bit.
Sorry. His name is Tahir Rahim, and we know him from, he was amazing in The Looming Tower, which you've never seen that.
I have.
About the FBI, CIA fakakta mess that happened that led to 9/11. And then he also stars in The Mauritanian. He's
French.
He's the Muslim guy that Jodie Foster represents, who's at Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, right. And we haven't seen this movie yet.
We haven't seen this movie. So he's in that. And then Jenna Coleman is his girlfriend in it. And she's just a darling.
They're cons.
Oh, yeah.
They're cons, Rocco. It's
unbelievable.
But it's fast moving. And I think you'd really like it because you get to be immersed in different cultures in the 70s.
That sounds fun.
Which is like a whole sweet timeline. But I was stressed out.
8 episodes. It's one and done kind of a thing.
Oh, it's a one and done. Okay.
Yeah, it's a one and done. And
how many are you in?
We watched 3.
Okay, because I made it through 1, but it took a long time.
Yeah.
In between. So here's what, after yesterday, we went on and on. You kept showing us pictures of This Is Us and about Milo. I was saying, because I kind of drop off because it stops a couple weeks and does it goes, Rocco, have you ever been involved in watching This Is Us?
No, we talked about this yesterday.
All right. Well, you listened.
Feelings.
Okay. So I didn't listen to that part yesterday. So that's just a little different thing. But so getting caught up last night, every single show, they tap into literally everything that is going on in our culture right now. It feels
because it's COVID.
It's COVID. It's sexuality. It's him, her, they, pronouns with your children or when people are figuring out what's,
it's post-traumatic stress disorder from wars.
It's
feeling all the things about being a birth child versus a found child.
Yes.
Or adopted.
And Black Lives Matter is in it. And but one of the things that touched me so much last night is the relationship between
the thighs. Did you see Jack's thighs anywhere? Look at those thighs. Jeez.
If people in the car, we just keep throwing up pictures. If you ever watch the YouTube thing, there's just pictures everywhere. But they had the most poignant conversation last night between Jack's brother and
his uncle.
Jack's, widow's wife.
Oh,
yeah. It was between Miguel and Nikki. And talking about how their presence in Jack.
And Nikki is Jack's brother who went to Vietnam with him and is brilliantly played by Griffin Dunn.
Beyond it is, and he is whose son?
Dominic Dunn's
son, who used to write for Vanity Fair, who was an amazing writer, whose daughter, something happened to her in the trails in Arizona. Remember, she got murdered.
She was murdered. His sister.
His sister. All right. Anyway, we digress.
You digress.
It is. Laura, you're going to love it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I would have watched it, but Casey was like, after the second episode of The Serpent ended on
keep going.
Such a cliffhanger, he said, let's just watch one more. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to watch This Is Us after I did all my,
But it talks about job loss. It talks about COVID stresses. It really... When it first came back,
it's the only show really doing that I know.
Right.
Maybe other
when it
ones
first
are.
came back, I felt like I don't want to do COVID while we're in COVID. But
we flip flop, but we always come back to the show.
It's one of the most poignant shows, I think, and the way they meld the stories together. It's brilliant.
We see Jack propose to Rebecca in last night's episode?
Sort of.
Okay.
I'm not going to give it away. Now, tonight, there's something big on. Teresa, Queen of the South, season 5. The final season starts on USA Channel if anyone's watching that. Yeah. And also the Kung Fu on the CW.
CW starts.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yes, it is.
So there's some TV things. And we never got to what you watched, Rocco.
Well, I did watch a little bit of Chad on TBS. We can maybe talk about that later.
I want to know
We
about
are going to
that.
talk about TV again.
Good.
All right, Chad.
I
do want to know about it.
It reminded me of Friends with Candy.
Yeah.
You remember?
And I don't know if you guys ever watched Pen 15. It kind of reminded me of that too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.